Hopefully you can't hear me chewing on these Twizzler nibs.
I could turn the. I do a thing where it like takes all the background noise out. So like, you might be if you like crunch, you'll hear it, but hopefully you don't hear the lip smacking. Oh, so you were saying that? You were talking about that crazy person at the gas station, and do you wonder if he knows that he's crazy to people? And then you were talking about that girl that like laughs funny, and wondering if you noticed it. So I was talking to this person today.
If they notice it.
Like yeah, the person themselves notice it.
Yeah, if someone has some awkward thing that they unintentionally do. So
I was noticing recently that I say random things that are just like awkward, like strange and awkward, and I can't think of a specific example of what was strange and awkward. But I'm trying to think of the exact thing I said.
You have to have an example.
I have an idea of what it is, but it's always just like I I dwell on the same thing for like way too long. Like,
is it only...
like for example, I'll say a joke. Like if I'm on FaceTime with somebody and I'm talking to them, and you know how FaceTime will cut out occasionally, and it'll be like you miss like 3 of the words in a sentence, and I just told like a spur of the moment like response joke to something. Whether it's like a joke, or if it's like a flirtation joke, or if it's just like me like making fun of somebody, and they'll like miss half of my sentence, and then they'll be like, "What?" or "They didn't hear me," and then at that point the joke is over because it was only gonna work and not be weird and awkward at the exact time. And then they'll be like, "What?" and I'll say the exact same thing again, and it'll be awkward. And I do that all the time with people. I realize.
You FaceTime all the time, you mean?
No, I do that thing. Like if someone doesn't hear me or something the first time, and I've missed the point where now it's going to turn.
You still do it.
I still say it.
Because that's when everyone goes, "Never mind."
Right.
So you don't say "never mind."
Yeah. And then the way that human beings are supposed to work is they're supposed to say, "What'd you say?" and I'm supposed to go, "Never mind," and they're going to be like, "No, tell me." And I'm supposed to say, it's not going to work anymore." And then they say, "No, tell me anyway." And then you say, "Well, I was going to say."
Yeah,
look at them butt cheeks, but you ruined it, so I wasn't going to tell you. So then everyone's on the same page that I was saying it in a certain type of way.
You're not supposed to give it out.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the procedure is, what? Oh, never mind. No, what? Oh, it was nothing.
Yes, that is the procedure, but of course I am a psychopath.
That's like, I wonder when and where you learned that.
I just like say it and I'm like, and then every time I do it, I'm like, I say it and I'm like, why did I do that again? I did it again. And it's so awkward for me.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, is there like a group of people in your life that if you do that to, like, it's still funny, like you don't care? And then like, there's also a group of people in your life where like, they just don't know you enough maybe, so that's why it's weird?
It's supposed to be funny. And if you try to say something that's funny, regardless if you're a comedian or you're just a normal person having a conversation, right, and you say it and it's not funny, then it just becomes awkward.
It's like if you're in a group. I feel like if like, you know, like certain relationships, like it would still be funny because like the timing wouldn't matter so much because like you know them so well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can think of some people like, it reminds me of that movie, I Love You, Man. How, like, awkward Paul was, you know? Like,
yeah.
Paul Rudd. I don't want to say Paul, like hang out with him.
The big problem is that I've only realized this recently about myself. So when you said that this girl has, like, a funny laugh, does she even notice? It's possible she hasn't noticed yet, and one day she will notice, and she'll be like, "Mother of God, I've been doing this my whole life." So I've recently realized that I do this.
So did FaceTime make you realize it?
No, just in general.
How did you realize it?
I started becoming aware of what people's reactions were to certain things, more so, trying to like actually look at how they react to things. And I've realized that every time I do that, it's negative. It's not a positive experience, and I've never realized it until recently, and I just like move on. And now I'm like, oh my God, I did it again.
I wish you had like a real
like
example.
It would be something like along the lines
I know. I wish you were like,
Oh, like exactly.
Because I bet you have one, but you're just like, oh.
No, I don't. I have like I know it's happened. It happened to me today.
I know, but so
And it happened to me yesterday.
It?
But it happens to me multiple times.
So what happened today?
I don't remember the exact conversation because I probably blocked it out of my brain.
Really?
It's like literally like multiple times in conversation. If I'm on FaceTime with someone for 35 minutes, it happens probably 4 times. Because you know how I'm always making stupid jokes. So if 4 times they don't hear me, I just repeat it. And then it's like, oh, okay. Or like, you know, I'm at work or something and I say something and they don't hear me and I say it again and I'm like, and then they just like stare at me. And I'm like, oh. And then I realize that now they like me less. I would like someone less if they did it to me, but I'm the only freaking person that does it. I don't know anyone else that has that problem. Everyone else just says, never mind.
But maybe that's a big part of your, like, personality.
Yeah, and that's not a good part.
Yeah, but I'm saying, though, like I think that there's myself included, but there's like a couple people I could think of where like you could act like that and it would still be funny because it's like I know like your intentions were to hit the timing or to go right, but it like almost sometimes makes it funnier.
Okay, so this is
to be like, oh my gosh, like you're an idiot. Like
this isn't an exact example, but this is exactly how it would happen. For example, like if I was on a FaceTime or whatever with someone, and it works on FaceTime because like usually I'm reacting to like something that's happening. So let's say I'm on FaceTime with some chick, and my Roomba just started for no reason. It's 12 o'clock at night. I swear, I don't know what's going on with it. Stand by 1 second. I'm not editing this out either. Go back home, Roomby. My Roomba's name is Rihanna. Pause. Send home. Give Roomba time to go back home because there's probably a noise in the background. We're such a professional outfit. Hey, I just want to thank all you 8 people for downloading our first podcast. And the 96. We're up to 96 on YouTube. Okay, so this is a perfect example. Let's say I've gone out with a girl like 5 or 6 times. Okay? So we're like not dating, but we're like, you know, we're like comfortable with each other or whatever. And let's say we're on FaceTime. And she, I don't know, like bends over to pick something up and she's facing away from the camera and her ass is just right in the middle of the camera. And I say something like, oh yeah, shake that ass or something like that. Just something stupid like being an idiot. Like I don't talk like that in real life, but like that would be like a sarcastic way I would say something. And then let's say she doesn't really hear me, but she hears something. She walks away from the camera for 15 seconds to go pick something up that was just dropped off at her front door. Comes back 30 seconds later and says, what did you say? I would be like this. I would be like this. I said, shake that ass. And she'd be like this. What? And that just ruins everything.
Oh.
Sometimes I do say Nevermind, and they're like, no, tell me what you say. And I'll be like, I said, shake that ass. And it's like, why would I do that? But that's exactly how it would go in that situation. And it, you know, and just in my normal life, it would just happen the same way, except like I wouldn't tell my friends shake that ass, but I would say something stupid, and then they wouldn't hear me, and then I'd say it again like an idiot out of context, and it would be stupid. So I've noticed that I do that. So now I have to force myself not to do it. Because it's not good.
I think the only fix though is like the initial thing you say is the problem. Like it's almost like you have Tourette's of the response. Like,
no, but that would be funny to them. Like if I said that to a girl, I would only say if it was hilarious.
I've never known anyone to have this problem, and it like makes me think that it's because the things you're saying are outlandish. Like it's like,
yeah, but they wouldn't be outlandish in the moment. Like if there was a girl, if my girlfriend was sitting in front of me and she did that, and I was like, "Oh, keep it juicy," and she turned around and be like, "Shut up, stupid," that'd be like a normal thing. But if I say it and she doesn't hear me, goes out of the room for 45 seconds and comes back in and says, "What'd you say?" and I said, "Keep it juicy," That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, then just start saying never mind.
Yeah, now I gotta say never mind. But that is a problem. It sounds
I
like something stupid. That's a turn. That's a huge turn off to people.
I'll tell you that I don't notice ever doing it anymore, but when I was a kid, I remember coming up with like things to say. So like say I was like,
Oh no.
and then they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, never mind." And then they're like, "No, really, what is it?" And I'm like, I was just gonna say something about there wasn't any ice in the freezer." True story.
Because this has happened to you before, or you just don't want to tell them at a time.
Yeah, like because it was like sometimes maybe your mouth moves quicker than your brain.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, they didn't hear you. And you know what? Honestly, how many people really know what you said? They're just saying that. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a large percentage.
What? And you know what they said. That's
yeah, like, because you hear like 2 of 3 of the words. And people use that either to like make them say it, like, say it again. Like, what? What'd you say? Or like, I'm pretty sure you just said that, so what?
Yeah, I don't understand. Why do people say what when they heard what was said? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's like maybe the person on the other end like doesn't like what you said. That's another consideration to have is like, I know you're pretty sure in your head that like if the timing was right, it would be a good, funny experience for everyone. But maybe sometimes these people actually heard you and they're like, I hope you didn't just say that. What?
No, that's possible. But
I'm just saying, there's a good chance that people hear some of the words. And maybe sometimes it's not even that like, they're like, what did he just say? Maybe sometimes it's just like, there's no way he just said that.
Yeah.
Because I never hear that. Like, because you say some like that's part of your person is like you say some funny sometimes, gross sometimes, like just like you get like a knee-jerk reaction with a lot of like those comments that you say. And I just think that like it doesn't apply to all the company.
What was it? I was just thinking about something related to that, and I totally lost my train of thought because I've had 2 Michelob Ultras. Hopefully the production quality of this one comes out better. I think yours sounds pretty good this time. You know what I was thinking about today? Not related to how I talk about things. Oh, by the way, I remember what I was going to say about the other thing. So I've realized after I've been thinking about it recently about me doing this, I realized that in the past when that's happened, I thought it would be funny to say it completely out of context. And then I've realized that I've fallen flat on my face every time I've done it. Because like for example, I'd be like, whatever. Say something stupid like I said before. And then I thought it would be even funnier to just say the same thing to the same person completely out of context because it's like kind of awkward at that point, I thought. And it would be like, like awkward funny because now I'm just completely ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense. And I kept doing it over and over and over again. And every time I did it, I failed miserably.
You have to give an example.
That same thing. Like if I said
how would it be out of context?
Like if I said that to a girl, like I said, keep it juicy, juicy, which is a really good song, by the way. If I said that to a girl and she didn't hear me, and then she came back a minute later and was like, oh, sorry, I had to go get something at my front door. And she said, what did you say? And I would think to myself, this is going to be funnier now because it makes no sense with what's going on. And every time I did it, it's not funny.
Yeah.
But I actually have something else I was thinking about.
Wait. Before we leave that, though, I'm interested, like, it's neat that you've, like, figured that out, but what's your plan for fixing it?
I'm probably gonna think about it nonstop from now. Well, now I know I have like a rule in place. If I say something that's like a joke, and they say I didn't hear you, I'm just gonna say never mind. And if they say no, really tell me, I'm gonna be like I forgot.
Or I mean, you could always say like, oh, it would have been funny if you heard it at that time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna not tell them anymore. And if they press me, you know what's gonna happen? I'm like a heroin addict. If you press me, if you put the needle in my hand, I'm gonna say it again, mother bitch. Once an addict, always an addict.
Here's the other thing, though, is like maybe you don't want to change that.
No, I do want to change that. That's why I'm changing it.
But I'm just saying.
I have to. It's not good. It's not good. And you know what else I've realized? Sometimes I get in these zones where I say these, sometimes I get in these zones where I don't pick up, I stop. I'm pretty good at trying to like read people and how they're thinking and stuff. But then I realized recently, not that I'm doing it more recently, that I've always done this. I get in these zones and I totally miss the intentions of another person. It could be like bad intentions to me or good intentions, or it could be like a girl that like I didn't know was interested because I'm an idiot and I was like not paying attention and she was giving me signs and then I pass it up and then that's over or something like that. It could be all those things. And I've realized that I really get in those zones. And I was thinking about one specifically, which I'm not going to say the exact thing that happened, but I was with a girl. And I was like kind of drunk, but not really drunk. Like I had a few drinks, and I don't drink very much, but I wouldn't have driven, but I wasn't sloshed. And she said something that I thought of the next day, and I realized the next day that like I could have done whatever I wanted the previous night, and I ended up doing nothing. And I realized the next day, and it's because I was in that zone, just not even listening. Like they would say something, they said something that was like, you know, you might as well just like impregnate me kind of conversation. But it was like subtle, like, you know, just showing interest. And I completely ignored it. And I remember doing it. It happened like a month ago, probably. And the next day, like when I wasn't really doing anything else and I started thinking about the day before, I was like, wait a minute. She said that. And I just continued watching TV. Like, not to be like perverted about it, but just like, you know, you'd like, not to like say, you know, we're going to go bang, but just like to show interest in me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like completely didn't even pick up on it.
But how are you even conscious of it later then?
It just pops in my brain. Like, it'd be like I'm sitting next to a girl. This isn't exactly what happened because what exactly happened is too graphic. But like, it would be like if you're sitting next to a girl and you do the yawn thing and you put your arm up like this and you like, or you put it down next to her and then she like tries to snuggle up over underneath your hand and you're not paying attention and you go like this and then put your hand on your lap. Like, you know, because you're not thinking, me. That's like this equivalent. Like I would pull my hand away, not thinking about it. Yeah. So I realized I do that too. Like
yeah, but then
completely cut them off.
So then where are you though?
I have no idea.
That's the thing. It's
like I'll tell you what it was off this thing.
But the girl, like that's worse than the Nevermind conversation because there's no way out of that.
For who?
For you. Because it's not like, what are you going to say? Like, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't initiate or react from your action. I wasn't there. You know, like.
No, I mean, I would probably say I didn't, you know, I'd be like, play stupid. I'd be like, oh, I didn't even catch it. Sorry. It was like, dude, when I tell you this off the air, sorry, 8 listeners. When I tell you this, you're going to be like, are you like, are you slow? It's like so obvious. And then I realized I've thought back through my life about like tons of situations. Where were you?
That's what I mean. Like I
was watching TV.
I know, but I feel like, so here's my point.
Oh, here it is. Here's where I was. I was on one line. I was going one line. And I was like so dead set on that line of what I was trying to, like, how I was trying to do what I was trying to do, that any deviation from that line just went right over my head. So I was on one track doing whatever I was doing. Like, let's say my goal was I was going to, I don't know, like, let's say my goal was I was going to, like, somehow work in, like, me, like, tickling her or something, and then that was going to lead to us being next to each other, and then that was going to lead to like being like cuddled up with each other, and that was going to lead to this. Let's just say that's my line, because you got to plan these things out sometimes. You can't just go in willy-nilly. So let's say that's my line, and then let's say in the middle of that line, like, okay, now I go over, I tickle her, ha ha ha. Now we're closer to each other. Now let's just say I didn't plan on her putting her legs up on my legs. Like, I didn't plan on that particular thing. Now I'm like this. She like goes, like if she went to put up her leg on my leg, I'd be like, what the hell? And I'd move my leg out the way. Like, that's the equivalent of what I'm talking about here. But it would be verbal, not physical. But that's the idea of what I'm saying. So that's where I am. Yeah. I get so caught up in which is crazy, because like in other situations in my life, would like stuff like I can divert very quickly in my attention when I have to. But for this, and it's not this all the time, but this is like a problem I have. And it's not just like with girls. It's just a good easy example, but it's a lot of things. Just when I get caught on a track, it's hard to, like I don't see the things going on around me about stuff.
What's something totally unrelated to a date type experience that you would say like that happened?
I'm trying to think.
Like, is that what happens like when you get like a knife in your hand? Because I've noticed like...
Yes. Okay. Have you noticed the cuts all over my hands? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean, like, I've noticed with you, like some people are like one way across the board, like all the time, like OCD or stuff has to be in a certain shape or form or order. And it's like you don't have that with a lot of things. But like the first time I really noticed it, other than how you eat your corn on the cob, is like when the knife is in your hand in the garage, and it's like you're like a Rain Man walking around, and it's like, you can't even look at this until I'm ready to show you it. Like, it's
precious.
Yeah, and it's like, I wonder, is that like the same thing where like there are certain things, like probably it has to do with some sort of security of yours, that like there are certain things that you create like a logistical plan to, and that you don't want to reveal it, and because it's a reflection of like what you expect, like what you want to like to like be a part of you or something.
I don't think the knife thing is applicable. I think that's just me like knowing that I have the potential to make something pretty cool, and I don't want it to like be shown mid-stage.
Yeah.
And just like and it's like, like it's just, I think it's also one of those things that's like it's not a super hard thing to do, so I'd like to make it pretty decent before I like, show people it or whatever. But I was thinking knife. I thought you were talking about knifing, like cutting my fingers open. So like, this is a story for everyone. Okay, so I have coconut trees in my backyard, and I recently started cutting the coconut trees down cutting the coconuts down when they're like brown, which means that there's like that's like the coconut you go to the grocery store and get. You take the husk off, there's the brown coconut inside, you cut it open, there's some water in there, and then there's the white meat. Well, I've been making like coconut milk with my coconut meat, but it's a huge pain in the butt to get the meat out. So this leads exactly into the one track thing. This is me cutting the meat out of my coconut. I break the thing in half, I pour the coconut water out. My thought is, I'll get a sharp knife. It'll be easier to do because it'll go through the coconut meat, and I'll be able to pop all the stuff out. So I'm trying to get the coconut meat out with a sharp knife. I slip. I slice the side of my finger, but not that bad. It's just like a surface cut. And then I stop, and I like look at my hand. I'm like, oh, okay, it's barely, not even really bleeding. So I'm like, well, I'll just change how I'm still going to use this sharp knife. And I'm still going to hold this coconut in my hand because that was the plan. But I'm just going to I'm just going to know the pressure. I'm just not going to use as much pressure. So what do? I push it through, and then not thinking. Obviously, you have to put a certain amount of pressure to get the stupid thing into the coconut husk. I do it for a little while, pop a few pieces out, and then boom, slice the side of my freaking finger. like deep this time on the same finger. And then it starts gushing blood. It's like pretty deep. So I wrap it up with a napkin and some tape. And I'm like, okay, well, I still have to use the sharp knife to do this because that's the plan. That's what we have to do. But I'm like, I'll just adjust a little bit so now I won't hit my finger. And if I do hit my finger, it'll just hit the finger that's already wrapped up in napkins and stuff. So I do the same thing. Now this is the third time. And I snap the stupid thing up out of the coconut. It pops up, slices so the flat side of the knife, like the side of the knife, is now touching my thumbnail, and the sharp side slices right down the length of my finger, like a quarter inch on the top of my nail, but like next to my cuticle, and slices me wide open again. So then I start bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And then I said, well, okay, so now I have I have my thumb wrapped up and I have my index finger totally wrapped up. And I say, well, there's no way I can do anything now. I'll just adjust how I'm doing the coconut a little bit, but I'll keep going, doing the same thing. And I did. I kept going and kept going. I did the same exact thing again, popped it out, sliced the top of my thumb with the napkin wrapped around it, and then I finally stopped. So you want to talk about not looking at the things that you should probably notice are happening and make you deviate your plan a little bit. That's an example. No deviation at all. I sliced my finger open 3 or 4 times before I even changed the plan.
What would have made you stop?
Nothing, probably. I'd have to cut my finger off, probably. I probably would have had to have a cut on my hand so bad that I could not keep going.
So my question is, though, is the drive to stay on the plan, or is the drive for the coconut milk?
I wanted the coconut to be done, and I was too stupid to just deviate a little bit and say, hey, maybe I don't have to use a sharp knife.
Like, what's the motivating factor? Like, this whole time are you going, gosh, this coconut milk's going to be so good. I have to get these off.
No,
it was like...
I just want to get the coconut out. That was because I already planned on getting the coconut meat out. I had to get it out. So I was like,
you had to get it out that way.
I guess so. I was sitting there thinking to myself. I was texting somebody at the time, actually. And I was like, well, I just cut my finger twice. And I'm like, hey, how much of an idiot would I be if I kept going? And I just kept going. I knew it was stupid. And I was like telling myself, I'm just going to keep doing this. I know I'm going to cut my finger again, but I can't possibly cut my finger again.
We're going to have to edit this out or no one's going to listen to it.
That's what it is. That's what it was.
Oh, shit. How do you fix that?
You don't.
Well, no, that's one of those things that you don't remove it from your life. You just hone it in, because that's like a really good characteristic. It's just it can be put to waste or to haste.
Oh, you should be able to deviate quickly if you have to. You should be able to identify that something's not working or you can't do it this way for whatever reason, and then just do something else. That's the good characteristic.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, like that story to me though is also like, give that guy a task and he's gonna figure out how to. Let's not say figure out. He's gonna get it done the one way he knows.
Regardless, one way or the other, it's gonna get done.
One way.
One way.
One way.
Whichever way. The first thing I think of, hey, let's use the sharp knife. Meanwhile, I go on YouTube the next day and look it up, and all the Jamaicans can do it in about 5 seconds.
How do they get the meat off?
They use a stick. Zach. They put a stick in the ground. Hawaiians do the same thing. They put a stick in the ground. It's got a sharp end. They put the coconut in there and you scrape it out. Huh?
Oh, so it doesn't come out in chunks.
No, it comes out scraped.
Have you tried it?
Nope. Don't have a scraper. Didn't make one.
Is it like a point?
Yeah, it's in the ground. They take the thing and they take the half circle, the half globe of a coconut, and they scrape the meat out.
But the stick's a point.
Yeah, and it's in the ground sticking straight up. But they use like a metal thing, like maybe a metal point or whatever. Yeah, it works.
So you get all like shavings.
Yeah. I actually watched a Hawaiian guy do it before I even did any of this, and I'm looking at him like, psh. He's taking him forever. It's taking him like 2 minutes per coconut to do this. Meanwhile, it took me like, 45 minutes to do 2.
Maybe that's why when you go to like the health food store to buy coconut, it's always shredded.
Oh, they probably. I mean, those are from machines.
No, I know, but it's probably because originally.
It's too. Yeah.
Because I don't know that I've ever seen it for sale chunks.
Probably way too hard to get the chunks like commercially.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people care about how our thoughts on the chunks versus the shavings of coconuts. Probably at least 80 is. Probably 80 is.
All the Patreon viewers will have an extra, and it'll.
Hey, we'll send you some of my coconuts if it's $45.
Huh.
You know what I've noticed too? Maybe you've noticed this. Have you noticed, like, maybe we haven't seen a change very much. I've seen a little bit of a change. Have you noticed that no one can just say anything to anybody anymore? Like, let's say you're at work and you have a boss, and then you have people on your level, like the one level below your boss, and there's 10 of you on that level below that one boss. And there's one person, let's say there's 30 of you. There's one person of that 30 people that's doing something wrong. And the person is doing it wrong for 6 months. And everyone notices, the boss notices, and at some point it's just like has to be addressed, for example. Have you noticed that people can't just say, hey, Steve, come in my office? And then discuss it with them. The boss can't just say, hey, Steve, come in my office and deal with him and say, Steve, can you not keep stealing the paper from the printer?
Are you saying like they publicly address
so they go
it?
Instead, they have a group meeting with 30 people that 29 of them are doing nothing wrong,
right? And
say, hey, there's been paper. People have been taking paper from people. Have been person has
poor leadership.
But why is that? Why is that a thing now? It's everywhere.
I actually just had a conversation like that today. The weird thing is like, it's funny when, like, leadership, you know, I think it's hard to fake, but I think that there's certain certain types of work or careers or that kind of sort where, like, you can be in a leadership role and fake it through it. And every once in a while, something like that comes out, and the leader does what you're saying. Like, the thing now probably most commonly is, like, you send an email string to everyone. Like, one person forgot to do their timesheet, and you send an email to everyone, like, everyone better pay attention to their timesheets. They have to be in by 9:15 every day, or, you know, every Friday at this date. And it's like, man, before that, like, we just knew you just had to have it in by 6 o'clock. And now I've got to change all this because of one idiot, you know? Right. But I think that those things happen more often. And, like, for your instance, like, to do it publicly, it's because the person that's in the leadership role doesn't have the guts. Yeah, they don't have the ability. Like, it's one of those, like, they would, like, their hand would shake, or they might stutter, or they might do something having this one-on-one conversation with someone who there's a chance that this person can look at them and be like, kiss my ass, you know, or like, I didn't do that, or like throw them something and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can reply to that, or I don't know. So they pick these safe zones. But that's really what it is.
But what that hasn't always been. I guess it is just a difference in ideas. But I wonder why that started. I guarantee that wasn't common. I think that's a new thing. Because
I think that now we have to put varieties of people into different places.
Well, I mean,
Do you get what I'm saying though? Like, we're more concerned about, like, equal opportunities and that kind of thing, that we end up. Well, I'll give you, for instance, I knew in one career field that there was an opportunity for someone to be in charge, and this person put in for it, and they were literally the only one that put in for it, and so they were awarded the position. Does that mean they were the right person? You know what I mean? And so I
they're
think
leadership now,
right? And so I think those are the kind of things that it's like. It's just like society now, like things were considered more importantly in older times, and the combination of equal opportunity type things and limited people interested. Like if you have a position that's a promotion and no one else is putting, only one person's putting in for it, and they're not like a well-liked, suited person, no one's going to want to run into battle with them kind of thing. It's like, we might have a problem, you know, like no one wants to promote. Like there's like 200 people in this area and like only one put in for it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And but yeah, that's like the long story of it though, is it's like let me give you here, I'll just tell you the story that I had today. So when I used to work for a corporation as in a leadership type role, you get direction from up above, right? And if you think about it, it's like that old saying, like SH rolls downhill kind of thing. It's like one guy sitting in a really nice rolling office chair comes up with an idea, and then he tells the next two people who tell the next three people, and the job, the way that it's designed to work best is like in a game of telephone, where as it comes down from each level, the person telling the next person owns it. So they're not going, yeah, Richie up there came up with this idea and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Instead, they take what Richie told them and then they apply it to the audience that they deal with and sell it to them.
So instead of saying, hey, corporate's making us do that, you say, we're going to do that.
Exactly. Like, and that's like a hard thing to do. That's like a leadership role. Like whether you were like in a military situation where like the general told you and it works down, like you have to own it in each step. And I know firsthand, like it's difficult because there might be things that are going on in your world and your work, like way far away from the guy in the chair, that like you've been complaining about. Like you've had people that work for you complaining about this, and now you're gonna go, hey, we're gonna do this even more now. You know, and it's like you have to come up with the way to do it, because it's a total loss if you don't. And I think that that's what a reason why a lot of organizations suck or are failing or, you know, just stay mediocre, is because that's what happens. Think of how much easier it is. If I'm coming to you and I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to necessarily love, is it easier for me as a leader to go, hey, corporate said we got to do this now, and you're going to be like, well, I don't want to work Sundays. Corporate said that's what we have to do now. You know, and then we're both like on the same team. It was an easy conversation. You think, I think the same way, and we're both mad at corporate. Versus me being like, hey, Ryan, like, you know, our numbers have been picking up a little bit on Sundays. And, you know, I'm not thinking forever, but I'd like to put you in that position on Sundays and you kind of run the team and see what we can do with sales. You know, like that's the kind of like the two different things, but it's like one's hard to do or harder.
They say, I don't want to work on Sundays, and you say, okay, well, you got to work on Sundays.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I would know you enough as an employee to like know how to make it work for you. Like know that like, look, I know you go to church on Sunday, but I'll have you come in after at 12:30. And, you know, and then if you're like, oh yeah, but this and that or whatever, and it's like, well, you know, if you want to look at the schedule and find another day to take off instead now, or whatever you have to do.
Yep.
But you're not like the worst case scenario is like that someone leaves pouting and running away, you know, like your job is to kind of make everyone happy doing what you have to do.
Yeah, but it's even now, it's like, it's almost like at this point we're so pussified that even though a person that's doing something wrong could go to this meeting, have a generalized directive from the boss that says, you stop stealing the printer from the printed paper from the printer. We are losing 100 pages a day. That's a lot of money. We need that money. Blah, 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 blah. That person that was doing it is still butthurt about it. even though, and it's not, that is the least invasive way of telling you to do it. And there's still,
like they're saying they got like,
yeah, like
they
they're
got
still like
pointed
upset
out.
about it. It's like, well, that's the easiest way you can ever get told to stop doing something is for 29 people that haven't been doing anything being told
I
that you did
think
wrong.
that comes down to that whole adage that like with a like in terms of like an enforcement thing, whether it's with your kid or with like maybe in law enforcement, like they would do like a warning versus a citation. It's like I have some friends that work in law enforcement, and like they'll always say like the ones that you get complaints on are the warnings.
I've heard that before. But
And like it's kind of the adage that like it's kind of like I guess it's like some sort of thing where it's like insulting or like there's some like character defamation where they feel like
you're talking about like if the cop is being like, if the person's being aggressive and then the cop is like being aggressive back, but then they end up getting a warning, that's the one that they're going to say this cop was unprofessional.
Right. Versus if the guy had just gave him a ticket or arrested him. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like one of those things where it's like they knew they were bad. They knew they, like, I guess it's
They're
something
defensive.
Right. But so like I kind of chalk that up with like the same kind of thing. Like, well, now look what you did. You just brought down group morale by having this conversation with everyone.
Yeah.
This guy feels like everyone was looking at him the whole time.
Right. And by the way, the person that's doing the wrong thing knows that everyone knows he's the one that's doing it.
So it's like public.
So instead of the boss just going, "Hey, Steve, stop stealing the printer paper, stupid."
Yeah.
And
Come
he's
in
like,
my office.
Yeah. Instead of that, now you just exposed him in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for the boss.
It's failed.
And the other thing is, no one just like it's like almost like
it should be private.
Everyone's trying to be friends with everyone about everything, and then like, so they won't tell Steve when the boss walks in and sees Steve hoarding printer paper in his backpack to steal. He ignores it for 3 weeks, and then finally he's got to say something about it in front of everyone, rather than just being like, "Steve, take the printer paper out of your. You can't keep printer paper. You know you can't take." Instead of just doing that, like I feel like you could do that and still be really good friends with people.
Just boom, cut it at the.
Yeah, it's done. It's over. Move on. Like, and then you're fine with. You'd be fine with
hey,
it.
Steve, that's all the printer paper from now on. Okay.
Yeah, like yeah, you got your 100 sheets. That should last you. Don't take any more. And then move on, and then you could still be friends with each other. I mean, I guess theft it's hard.
So then, what is it though? Like,
I think it's just we're such sissies nowadays. It's like the bosses shouldn't be bosses because they don't have any. Like they don't feel like authority. It used to be like when you were a boss, I think it meant something. As far as like the lower end bosses go, like I'm sure like in corporations, like these big corporations, like once you get to like general manager, I'm sure he has no problem telling an employee what to do. But when it gets from like the person that actually works with those employees every day, that's when there's the problem. There, because the bosses are trying to be everybody's friend and just be nice to everybody, and everyone wants to be nice to each other and be friends, and nothing bad can happen. But if you put someone like that's separated from that business that comes in once every 6 months to check what's going on, and he walks in and like the aisle that this person's responsible for is messed up, I'm sure he'll have no problem saying, "Hey, Steve, your aisle's messed up." Yeah. Or go to the manager and be like, "Hey, tell Steve, why is that aisle so disgusting? That's not how it's supposed to be set up." And then the manager will go over and be like, "Hey, general manager said that you gotta clean." I actually had that happen to me when I worked for a sporting goods store. This guy that was my manager was always wanting to be everybody's friend, talked a big game, and at one point they were like calling me to do. They actually suspended me for a day for like literally nothing. They said that I stole someone's money, which I did not steal anybody's money. So the quick backstory is girl at the front counter. Guy uses a gift card. There's like $2 left on the gift card. Guy's flirting with the cashier. Gives her the balance on the gift card. $2. He just bought like a jacket or something. There's $2 left. He gives her the $2 on the balance of the gift card. She calls me up and says, "Hey, buy us 2 drinks with the $2 on this gift card." I buy it. Later, they come back and say that was against policy, and I technically stole his $2. So the boss, I could see it in his face when he told me I had to go home for the day. he like was so out of his element because he was like always let's be friends with each other and blah 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 blah. When really it should have been very easy. He could have just been like, well, we got to invest. We got to. It's a possible policy violation. We're going to look into it. I'll let you know what's going on. Period. End of discussion. And he was like, he was doing that. He was shaking. He couldn't look at me in my eye. I could see his like, he had like his face was white because he was so nervous to say it to me. And it was like that. It was like he should not have been in that position. I mean, obviously he didn't last very long because he shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I don't know that I know many. I mean. A lot of people are like that. I know a few bosses from my last place, next level people that were like the boss above me at my last place that I worked. That from the older times, they were like that. They would just be like, "You can't do this, or this, or that, or that." But then, like it's like our generation now, it's gone.
You think they're worried about getting fired, or you think that they're worried about the person like retaliating?
I think they're just sissies. I think they're scared of confrontation in any way.
So you don't think that there isn't a percentage of it where they're like, well, if I tell this guy this, and he might go to my boss, and then I could get in trouble.
No, I think it's like literally 99.9% people are just so anti-confrontation with people. People don't know how to deal with each other anymore because our social skills are gone, almost completely. Like I think I don't know if I brought this up last week, or if I told you about this, but it's like. I went to the grocery store last week or the week before, and I was looking at something. I may have said it on the last podcast that we did, but I'm holding two pans. I'm holding potatoes in one hand, and I'm holding a pan in the other because I'm planning on making potatoes in this pan. A potato casserole for a work party. I'm holding like 8 potatoes and this like deep dish pan, and there's this nice woman just looking in the same aisle as me, and I go, and she knew I was talking to her, and I go, "Is this pan big enough for these?" And she almost like fell over because I was talking to her. You know, it's like we were standing right next to each other. It's awkward that I'm having a conversation with another person because it never happens anymore. And then she turned, she's like, "Oh, I think that should work fine." And I could just see that she was like so taken aback that I even had a conversation, like a normal, like I wasn't like scared to talk to her. I just said, "Hey, is this pan even big enough?" And she was like, "Oh," like right off the bat, because we don't socialize anymore. It's over. It's weird. And the socializing we do over the internet and stuff is just like, it's not.
You think
real
Corona?
No. I think it's social media.
But I mean, it's been enhanced. But
like we have to stay away from each other and stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like I know what you're saying, and I have seen that over the years. But I feel like I don't even remember how it was pre this epidemic thing. So like the epidemic thing now, I feel like it's a total issue. Like,
well, think about this: if you've ever been like at a store and something like this happens, where you're at a sporting goods store and you buy a brand new backpack that's like sick, it's like super expensive, and then someone says, "Man, that backpack's cool. What do you go hiking? Or what, are you a hunter?" Something like that. Who are those people? They're always older people, because those are the people that are used to like the only way they interacted with another human is when they went to the store and talked to somebody. Yeah. It's always like an older guy or an older lady. That's, oh, are you a hunter? Oh yeah, I hunt. Up here and blah 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 blah. And that's how people met people and had conversations and stuff. Now it's not like that. Like I've never had a young kid say anything about, but young or older guys have said stuff to me out of the blue.
Yeah.
Or even just saying hello. It's always old men or old women that will be like, "Oh, hello, or good morning," or whatever. Yeah. That's always older people. It's just like this whole. They didn't realize what social media was going to do to us when it was designed. They thought it was going to get us to talk more. It makes us talk less.
Yeah, and the other thing I even think about sometimes too, and this podcast actually has brought it to my attention, is like, if you're connected to someone all day through text messages, sending videos, pictures, occasional quick phone calls, emails.
Nudes.
What are you? It's gonna be slim pickings, maybe, for like what you would if you saw that person later that day. Like, that's the other thing.
Oh, you have nothing to talk about.
Well, yeah,
anymore.
I sometimes think about it. Like with this specifically, I think like, oh, like I could text him that or call this, but that we'll wait and I'll talk to him. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Like, and that's when it like kind of started like hitting me. Like, like you talk to someone throughout the course of the day, like you and I, and then it's like, yeah, let's go out and grab a beer or something. And we go somewhere and like we're sitting there drinking a beer and it's like, so can you believe that what I sent you earlier today?
Yeah,
Can you believe that guy that did
half
this?
hour.
Yeah, and it's like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Like,
No.
and that's why I think like now the natural transition is just to be completely like socially in person. Like it's like, well, why would you ever be?
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna have a beer or something, and I don't know, they figure out some way that you sit down in your house in a chair and you're there with the other person,
Yeah, I guess there was just a lot of stories back in the day. There's just a lot of stupid stories that, like, like what we text each other about throughout the day. Be like, we'd have 30 things each to say, but it would all be these little things. You'd be like, hey, ship went up today 30 cents. And I'd be like, hot dang, it went up 30 cents?
Yeah, right.
And then I'd be like, yeah, and I had Rolls Royce. That baby went up $2.
That's what I mean. So imagine though, like how awesome it would be the end of the day.
Yeah.
To like I would legitimately be like excited to be like, oh man, like, Ryan, he gets caught up. He says these things, one track thing, and I got to ask him to say it again, and he won't say Nevermind. Like, I can't wait to ask him what happened to his day and like this and that.
Who'd you say something stupid to today?
But then it also like, since we're victims, and I'm not like, it's not even victim, but like we're just part of it. It's like, I can't imagine my day if I couldn't connect with multiple people and say little stupid things and like send an audio and like send an emoji here and there. Like that gets me through my day.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking of something that with that, I was just thinking of something. Do you think that the reason that there's so many people that are content with not having like really close friends that they actually hang out with and stuff, obviously they've replaced their social life with this like texting and doing all this other stuff and being on social media and stuff, so now they don't even miss the being with other people because they're so addicted to social media and things. They just assume sit in their house by themselves and be on social media than actually interact with another person.
I'm sure. I mean,
It's got to be connected.
Think about this, right? My brother and I. He lives 1,500 miles away. If he lived 5 miles away, he probably wouldn't get the volume of text messages that he gets from me and videos of like his nephew doing things and stuff. That he would probably know and have seen less of our lives.
Oh, right.
Than if he lived 5 miles away.
You wouldn't feel the need to show him.
Right. I mean, he would get like real life, like what we would quote unquote say like the quality time. But yeah, he'd be like maybe every once in a while he'd go to like BMX or something, like stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, but it would probably be better that way. It'd be better for him to be be there. I'd rather be there for 10% of the time for quality than 100% of the time.
But I think that there's there's like a weird disconnect there.
Yeah, like for example, like my dad when I was growing up would videotape us all the time. He'd always get like the newest video recorder and record us doing stuff like snow tubing or whatever, skiing and all that other stuff. and playing baseball and doing little stuff in the backyard or whatever. And my family didn't see that. Every once in a while, like every couple of years, my dad would be like, "Hey, I put a video together," and then he'd play it, like a 30-minute video. Now it's like every day something is like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's strange.
Like, think of like grandparents, like your parents, as far as grandparents, like they probably get a picture every day, if not every other
literally
day,
every day,
of a video of them, of a new word they said, of this, of that. It's like, and that's what I mean. It's like, are we just spoiled brats?
Here's the other thing. What about this portal? I have a portal sitting right there on the desk. My parents would never see not my grandkids, good Lord, my nephews, as much as they'd portal with them almost every single day. If they lived close to each other, they'd see them once a week, something like that. Maybe talk to them on the phone one of the other days. Now it's every day, but I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
I just don't think. I think there has to be some separation to be healthy.
What do you mean?
Like there should be separation. Like let's pool, like put some stuff together before we get together, and then have some time together, and we could talk about these things and whatever, and spend some time together, and then there's going to be a few days where we're not going to talk to each other, and then move on. Like the way it used to be, like with your grandparents or my grandparents. I'd talk to my grandparents once a week. I'd probably see them once every 2 weeks, and we'd be over there all day. And then we'd wait for the next couple weeks, and then I'd go back again, and we'd talk about whatever happened in the previous 2 weeks. It's just weird that you
think that's how it's supposed to be.
Yes. I think that's how it should be.
But do we just say that because that's what we know?
No, I think it's pretty self-evident that the way it's going right now is not beneficial to anybody. It's not healthy the way that we're going. Like these things are going.
What's the downside for the grandparents?
To what?
To be able to portal with their grandkids every night.
Oh, I don't think there's necessarily a downside to that, but it's everything that comes along with all that stuff. That's like there's obviously benefits to certain things, but I don't know. I think it's like you're just now we have small talk and they end up just sitting there staring at each other. Hey, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. Okay. You going to school tomorrow? Yeah. Who's your teacher? Still Mrs. G. What'd you have for lunch? I like bologna. Oh, okay.
Well,
okay,
yeah,
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Forced, then.
Well, of course it's forced. What are you going to talk to a 4-year-old about every single day?
No, but I'm saying though, like right now for us, it's like our kid will be like, "Hey, I want to FaceTime grandma," or "I want to call grandma," and he's so funny.
Well, that's normal. Like calls, I'd always call.
Right, but I'm saying though, like that to me, your example is like the parents going, "All right, you're gonna FaceTime your grandparents now," and like they get on.
That's not it. They don't do that.
But I mean, like otherwise, then why would it be like that? The kid's forced into the conversation. I'm not saying it's your family, but I'm saying if a kid's on there and he doesn't want to be on there, then he shouldn't be on there. If a kid's on there and he's going, this, the same teacher, it's like, well, why the hell's the kid on the FaceTime thing to begin with? Because someone's forcing him to do it. Like my son, like he'll FaceTime his grandparents, and he'll be like, hey, I wanted to see if tomorrow I should bring my bike over. And they'd be like, yeah, you could bring your bike over. And he'd be like, okay, bye. And he presses the button, like, totally innocently, but, like, he just, like, he's, like, that's happened to me, like, when we'll call, like, my brother. It's like, my son doesn't have a ton of things to, like, talk to about with him, you know?
Yeah, it's like a silent.
And so, like,
it's not bad either.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it gets, like, I feel uncomfortable. Like, it's just kind of like, well, do they want to go? Is it, you know, what's going on? And it's just like, all right, well, if you don't have anything else to say, then we're going to say bye. You know, like that kind of thing. But I don't know. Like, would you not want that? Like the thing that we do with all of these type things that have to deal with, like, technology is, like, we look at, like, one, it's different than what we knew. And two, it's like we look at all the negatives. And like the positives are like just like we just expect them. You know, so it's like, and I'm saying personally, I do that where I'll just be like, yeah, this is going to be messed up. Like now kids are, you know, bullying on a Facebook because they don't even have to have any balls to be a bully anymore. Like you can just do and say whatever you want and all these kind of things. And like it's the limelight of the news and all these hot topics and stuff. But it's like, well, how about the everyday effects? How about like that you can go off to work and like see something cool and send it to your stay-at-home wife who's stuck with 2 little kids, you know, or that she can get on Facebook and, you know, like, yeah,
do those things affect our lives beneficially?
I think so.
But how is me seeing a cool thing on the computer like cool? Like how does that actually help me? Besides saying, "Oh yeah, that's cool."
I mean, I think that like it mirrors the same thing that like would have been done 50 years ago, where you sat at a pub or something and told a story, or you know, unfortunately, you couldn't show a picture unless you had like a Kodak or something with the quick film. But I mean, like it's like that's what relationships are.
I think it turns everything into. I think once you pile so much crap onto a few good things, everything gets turned to crap. Like everything loses its meaning when you're able to just give people a million things throughout the day, or like every single day. Oh, I found something cool. Send it to me. Yep, that's awesome. Oh, found something cool. Yep, that's pretty cool. Found another thing that's cool. Check this out. Yep, that's cool too. And then you send me something that's actually legitimate, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool too. Because now it's just there's so much volume of things. Majority of them are not really helping anyone's lives, and then it all just gets turned into like this. You lose the important things that you.
Well, and I guess then so my metaphor with that would be like to live up north. It's like the seasons. You know, if you look at the big picture, you go through. It's like it's like the greatest metaphor for like life. It's like you go through the not so desirable times, and through that process, you really appreciate the better. You know, it's like fall's coming and it's the introduction to the winter and you're hibernated and it sucks and you can't dribble a basketball and all those kind of things. And then the spring comes and it's like you get this re-enlightenment, and then it moves into summer where it's longer days. And
I think that's good. Unfortunately, I think now as a society that doesn't even make that much of a difference, because I think after about 2 days of it, you don't realize it anymore. Yeah. I just think like it would probably be more beneficial to us if we saw all these cool things throughout the day, you know, like however you find them or whatever. Then you come home and then you pick out the ones that are actually important to talk about and have an actual conversation about. Then every single thing that you see is now just at your fingertips for everybody, and it's just there. Because everything just mashed together and no one cares. People literally don't care about practically anything anymore, in my opinion. Really. It's all just, you know, in one ear, out the other. There's very few people that have like, not a desire. I'm trying to think of the word, like a passion for things anymore. I think we're all dulled way down because we have everything is like at our fingertips. Everything's so easy to get.
yeah.
So now people don't really care about anything. It's like back in the day, if we were friends in 1960, we would probably not even talk to each other all week. Then I'd call you on a Friday evening and be like, hey there, fellow. You want to go to the pub tomorrow night? I'll pick you up around 8. And you'd be like, sure. And then we'd go to the freaking bar and we'd have a million things to talk about and it'd be awesome. And then that's the way it would be. Now it's like all these little things, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it just turns into like a muck. That's the way we live now. It's not going to change. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I don't know which one. I think for our for society, I think the other way was better.
Well, so then like,
And there's no way to do it now. Like you can't force yourself. Like we're gonna do it this way.
no. But my argument is though is like then what was so if that Friday night or the Wednesday night that they got together to play bingo or bowl or whatever it was, like those were such highlights, does that mean that the other days that you can't share stuff and instantly be, distracted, was it like a lesser enjoyable time those times?
No, I think they were just doing like, I think that was the time that people like did normal life things. And they probably didn't even think about it. Like I get bored. Honestly, they probably didn't even get bored. Like, how bored do you get? Like, if your power goes out and your phone dies and you, like, let's say you didn't have kids, you'd be bored in 2 seconds. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to occupy your time except for, like, your electronics, essentially.
Well, I mean, I think that depends.
Sort of, but, like...
I mean, I don't feel, like, depends on the time of the year, the area, the world... Like what kind of property you own? Like if you live in.
I'm talking about for the general person.
I just think like if the power goes out at 9 o'clock at night, it's different than if the power goes out at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I'm just saying if you didn't have the options like tomorrow, you didn't have any electronics, and you couldn't get on the internet and all that other stuff. Major majority of people would be so bored they'd have no idea what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
It's not us necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in general that's what has been created by that. And I guess just because people will miss not having electronics doesn't necessarily mean the electronics are bad. But it's like it seems like it's a little unhealthy when that's the only thing people have to do. Which is a lot of people that are like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Like, I really would like to find out, like, if there was some sort of, like, not that it really would matter, but if there was any kind of, like, real studies or something that showed anything. Because, you know what I'm actually intrigued in, and I want to spend some time and, like, it'd be cool, like, if you could get, talk to, like, an older generation and, like, put together the information you find, but like what I would like I am like an old soul, at least I feel like I would like to be, and one thing that like I like to set like traditions and like even in my daily life, like you get up at this time, you get the coffee on, like it's just like you just autopilot. And I feel I
like that too.
And I feel like that has to be really comforting to someone like you, especially after talking about how you like make a plan and that's your plan. But like that's so comforting to me. Like even just if I don't actually do it all the time, just like the thought that someday I could achieve that. Like
I'd get up, make coffee, read something, read a news article,
shower, have a bite to eat, whatever, and like just start every day that way. And you know what I would like, and the reason I brought this all up about interviewing older generations and stuff is the newspaper.
You could still get it.
Yeah, but like it's not the same. And I want to figure like. So, a couple months ago I did that thing where like I used a backdated little iPhone that like would be a nightmare to try to use a web browser on. And I bought an iPad Pro. And I was like, in my brain, I was like, okay, this phone is going to do the basics. It'll play some music. It could get me somewhere with GPS. I can text and call on it. But that's going to be basically what it's for. And the iPad, I was like, you are my newspaper. You're my 2020 newspaper. So it's like, it's big enough to be a newspaper. And it's like, you throw it under your arm and you go, bye, honey. And you get in your car and you drive off to your work or whatever. And, on your lunch break or on your whatever time or whatever, like, that's what you do. Like whether you're actually reading the news or you on Instagram or Facebook or looking on Craigslist or doing whatever you're doing, that's the modern day newspaper. And the newspaper was like a big deal when it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you did. You know, like, and now it's almost like
that was the recreation thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they knew everything. That's how I would know what to have a conversation with you about in the break room.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, man, did you? Oh, no, I didn't. Like, sports were a big thing. You know, like, everyone, like, now they all watch ESPN and probably have apps and stuff. But, like, you would read about it on a sports thing. Like, the newspaper came out the next day about the game that finished that night.
Right.
And I think that one thing our like culture did, which this may be a total idiosyncrasy that I have, is like I demonize the phone. So whenever I see someone in a work environment and they're on their phone, it's like, you slacker. You know, it's like, you should be working. Like, who do you have to hide from to be texting? Or like, everyone looks guilty with a phone in their hand when they're making money.
Yeah.
And it's like, so how the newspaper didn't, you know, like the news, like, and so how do we get back to that? Like, that's the next step with technology is like, you know, they did that whole thing with Kindles and they made them like plain black and no backlighting and like tried to make a Kindle like a piece of paper kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I thought like maybe that's going to be the next newspaper. Like everyone carries around this like lower piece of technology, but it's technology that like tunes them into.
And everyone has it. Yeah.
It's just kind of like a neat thing to think about. Like, will that come back, or is that now we just like, so let me segue into this. Like, if you had a job, if you owned Ryan's coconut company, right?
Yep.
And you had 6 people that worked there, that you paid to work there.
Yep.
You would be an idiot not to have a cell phone policy.
Oh, right. Like you're not on your phone.
No, I don't think there is one anywhere. I think that all the companies have basically like succumbed.
Yeah, I think they've realized that they would. People are so addicted that their company morale would be through this floor if you didn't let people get their endorphins from their cell phone.
Like I remember years ago, like hiding. You know, like you put your like phone
like
under something. Yeah, like it was like you were kind of like hiding it, like
snake.
And it's like, and now I'm like, damn, like our freaking like efficiency in the work world. Imagine the hit it took at some point when this became a bigger thing.
Oh, I'm sure. I think maybe the only offset is that like the technology itself has made it you be more efficient. But as far as like the human element of everything,
but I'm saying specifically the phone.
I mean, like I think like our work product has probably increased, but only because of technology. I think like
you're saying offset.
Yeah, human input has gone way down. You can't go to one office, I'm sure.
So that's why customer service is the biggest hit right now.
Customer service is the biggest hit in what way? Like they suck.
Well, no, because I'm saying like the offset of manufacturing, for instance, or technology has offset the fact that humans and the employees are walking around with phones in their hands.
Yep.
But the one thing that you can't make up with the technology advances is the customer service.
Yeah, direct person to person.
Right. And so that's where the major hit is. But I'm like I'm just thinking if it said Ryan's coconut on the sign on the front,
yeah,
it's like you would have to like consciously be like, I know that we're losing 10% productivity because of these phones, but it's worth it because of the morale.
Yeah, you'd have to make a trade-off at some point.
Probably. And that just blows your mind.
You'd probably have to make a trade-off. I do think I would probably say, like, listen, you're not going to be sitting on your phone all day, every day. But then it's like, well, how long is what's all day mean?
And then it's like, oh, Ryan's not here today.
There's no way to even really there's no really way to quantify it because it's like, well, how much more work could you be doing? And then you'd have to look at their phone and be like, oh, look, you've used your phone for 1.5 hours today.
You want to know a true story? When I was at I had a store, and I had this I had hired this guy as an assistant manager. And he was like, he wouldn't have been my first pick, but something came along and it kind of like, I needed some muscle when I wasn't around kind of thing. And he had at least the balls to like say it the way it is and call people out. This is the guy I told you that he had a IT company on the side. He bought a jammer from China, which are totally illegal. And he put a jammer in our store. So cell phones didn't work.
Oh, really? So the people and the employees couldn't use it?
And he got it because of that.
And did the employees know?
No.
They just said, there's no internet in here?
There's just their phones stopped. When he would flip the switch, no one's phones worked in the store.
And it was beneficial?
I mean, I found out more about it later, and I think it was something that he used more when I wasn't around.
Yep.
But I mean, isn't that like, because I actually went to Kohl's yesterday to do an Amazon return. And I go in there and they need to scan that QR code on your phone. And Amazon's like, still loading, still loading, still loading. And I'm like, I always have this thing in the back of my head. I'm like, why haven't retailers blocked sell? Like, they don't even have to use something to block it to make it illegal or anything. They just, why don't they figure out what roof to use that you don't get good cell service in the stores?
In New York, the Walmart that I would go to, if I went to the internet and I went to Google and I searched for something, the only website that would open was Walmart.com. Like if I wanted to look up like a competitor's price or something like that, I'd have like one bar, barely a connection, and I'd go to Walmart.
And that's where I was going. I'm like, why haven't they figured out what roof to put on the buildings? Because what does everyone do? They see something that they want, and they're like, well, how much is it on Amazon? You know, or how much is it at Target? Because I could just drive over there.
Yeah.
So it's like, you would think like, yeah, it'd be shitty for the customers to do to your customers. But I mean, in reality, like, I'm sure it would be better for the company.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because no one's going to be able to look it up. I do it in Publix all the time.
Right.
Yep, I do that all the time. But
so I'm there at Kohl's, and that place, the Amazon return centers have to be way busier than any of the stores that they're in.
Yep.
And I go up there, and I'm standing there with my phone, and it's like, how many people has this woman at the counter watched do what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, still loading. Oh, I'm sorry, it's still loading here. You know, and then finally, like, she says something like, yeah, you might have to get on our Wi-Fi. And then I got to, like, go to Wi-Fi, or Kohl's guest, you know, accept. They just stole all my photos. And, you know, like, they know, like, where I shop and all my GPS stops throughout the country, like.
Yeah.
And then I can show her the QR code and she can scan it and I can go about my way. It's like,
do you think Amazon pays them or Kohl's pays Amazon to have Amazon returns in their store? I bet you Kohl's pays Amazon.
nah.
I bet you they do. I bet you they pay them because you're going to return that thing. Now you have the chance of buying that in Kohl's, or you're at least in the store. Maybe you'll see something on your way out.
I would like to know.
But Amazon also has the benefit too. Obviously, they need somewhere to return their stuff.
Kohl's gives a 20% off coupon on any item in the store when you do a return there.
Yeah, that's what it is. So they give a coupon because now you're going to go actually buy something from their store. They got to pay Amazon. I was looking at Amazon stock today. Mother of God. It's like this for like the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Non-stop.
Could you imagine
If you bought it when it was brand new?
I mean, not like everyone didn't know this, but I remember when it was like, wasn't it just books or something?
Yeah, Amazon was a bookstore.
I remember being like, why did they name it Amazon? Like,
I do too. I remember thinking that. It was
Yeah.
a freaking bookstore.
yeah.
God, I gotta look up Amazon stock price 2010.
You know, now they're gonna start delivering prescriptions.
I heard that.
Yeah.
It was 139 in 2010. And let me just see in 2000 if they even had a stock price. Okay, average stock price for Amazon in freaking the year 2000 was 46 dole hairs. Let me just give you a little up to date. That's not that long ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. I think it's 500 something now. Oh, I think it's 500. It's $3,100 from $40.
A share.
So, if you had $3,100 divided by 40, 77 per times what you had. So if you had $100 in there, you'd have $7,700. Yeah,
Are you gonna tell us how much?
you'd have $7,700.
If you had put how much?
If you had put $100 in there, you'd have $8,000. If you had put times, let's say you went wild back then, and you just bought $5,000 worth of this upcoming bookstore, you have almost $500,000.
It's crazy.
Yep.
I think though that's
Rolls Royce is the next big thing.
huh.
Rolls Royce is the next big thing.
Well, I think though, like, who the hell, other than like people who have like a investment plan that they don't touch from their career or their job, who the hell is investing for the next 10 to 15, 20 years? No one.
In one stock, you mean?
Yeah, like I feel like that's gone. Like that died with the last generation.
I do too. Like I don't know who, maybe employees that might get lucky.
Picture yourself honestly right now. You're messing around with stocks. Picture yourself going, I'm gonna buy $1,000 of this right now, and I'm not touching it for 10 years.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Who would?
I mean, I have stocks like that just because they're like mutual funds, but it's the only way.
But that's not the same thing.
No, you'd never do that. That's why I don't think
I'm
anyone.
saying,
I don't
like,
think anyone's
someone
done it.
who trades, because that's who would have done it on Amazon.
Who? How many people do you think have owned Amazon stock from the year 2000? The whole time, and never like bought it, and it still have the same stocks they bought in the year 2000.
The same dude that's selling his '69 Camaro with 600 miles on it.
Yeah, probably.
It's like they somehow in their life they got a big empty pole barn, and they're like, hey, I got this big pole barn, I might as well put a couple things in it and forget about it. Like, if you just like that, would that not be the best thing like an uncle could do? Like, oh, your nephew's born, like right now, like, you know, Tesla is like the boomer thing, that who knows what could happen. It could become Amazon in 20 years. Like if an uncle was like, hey, you know, for your birthday, I'm going to get you $100 in stock for Tesla every year. And you'd be like, yeah, well, you suck, uncle. I want to like Hot Wheels or whatever, you know? And it's like,
Yeah, but when you turn
then
18,
when you turn 18, you buy freaking the newest Tesla.
Yep.
Like that stuff doesn't happen that much anymore.
No, it used to be those stupid savings bonds. Wish my parents and my family got me stocks. Those savings bonds, $100, I'd be a millionaire. Tesla's went up a lot this year too. I think it's so funny. I'm like reading it, and I'm like, we both do it. We're like looking at a stock that's worth $1.07, and we're like, waiting for this baby to get down to 105, then I'm going in. Needed to drop 2 more cents. Buying.
We're equivalent to the people that are driving around going, oh yeah, but up here it's only $1.97 a gallon.
Yeah, right.
Well, 3 cent difference times 10 gallons.
Yep. Yep. Meanwhile, they drop like 75 cents down, like drop 75 cents in change and leave it on the ground. Which I do, by the way. I never keep change. I wonder how much money I've given away in change this far in my life. I don't remember the last time I kept change in my pocket. Oh. Yeah, that's so funny.
All right, let's watch some YouTube.
It's YouTube time. All right, we're getting up to... Well, thank you to the 10 listeners. And probably, I'm going to go with 160 on YouTube within 2 weeks this time. And thank you for all of our Patreons for letting us do this full time. How long was that? Oh, see, that's a good length.